everyone, welcome to the Battlesnake Twitch channel. My name is Joe and you are watching Coding Badly, a show where we do things with Battlesnake that aren't advisable to do, generally speaking. And today, it is just me. My co-host Kevin is not here. He's off doing very important things, and so I thought I would come and bring back an old tradition here on Coding Badly, which is writing Battlesnakes in languages that traditionally people don't write Battlesnakes in. And today that means we're doing a little thing called Factor. Let me bring up a little browser tab. First of all, for any of you who are not familiar with Battlesnake, if anyone's watching who is new to the whole shebang, let me get you. Excuse me. I don't know what just happened. My browser objected to being on that screen. Let me get you introduced to the whole shebang. This is Battlesnake. Battlesnake is a multiplayer coding game where you write the code that controls a little snake that doodles about and eats food. You effectively are writing a web application that is responding to API requests from the Battlesnake game. So the game will send you your web server all of the current game state as a big JSON blob, and you have to respond back with the move that you're going to take, left, right, or up, down. And all of the magic, all of the gameplay is what you do between receiving that game state and returning a response. It's really fun. If you haven't played it, highly recommend it. And we're going to be playing it in Factor today. What is Factor, I hear you ask? Well, Factor is a programming language, which I've had a really fun time with this week. I've been dabbling a little bit. We do prepare for the show. Obviously, we always come in to Coding Badly with lots of practice, lots of rehearsals. We know exactly what we're doing. We always understand the code we're going to write. So I have prepared. I've done a little bit of Factor. Factor, to put it shortly, is a concatenative stack-based language. Two things there. Concatenative. Sorry, one sec. Concatenative is referring to. I'm going to mess this up, but essentially, the way in which arguments are passed to one another. So rather than having, say, in like JavaScript or a traditional language or a C-style language where you would, have your function name, then brackets, and you put the parameters in like that. Wait, this isn't what concatenative means. What about stack-based stuff? I don't know what concatenative means. We'll look that up. The stack-based stuff. So all of your basically Factor has a stack that's kind of global to your program, I guess, or global to your program. And anything you do is kind of popped onto that stack, and then things operate on the stack. So if you've ever used Forth, or you've seen Forth, or you've heard of Forth, it's in that kind of family of things. And then Factor does some other really fun stuff. It has a really interesting development environment, which we'll be in a lot today, so I'll wait until we get to it to talk about that. Let's open up concatenative. See if I was on the money there. A concatenative language. Prefix. Yeah, okay, perfect. Okay, yeah. So I wasn't talking rubbish. The technical term for what I was saying is prefix notation. The technical term for what I was saying is prefix notation. So yes, they are great. That is great. So so it's got really interesting developer experience, which we'll be seeing a lot of today. It's been around for a really long time, and actually this is not my first encounter with Factor, and I'll tell that story in a moment. But it's been around for a really long time. It was originally created by a guy called Slava Pestos, who now works on Swift at Apple, and I'm not sure if the reason they no longer participate in the Factor development is because of that. I know that tends to be a thing where when you go join Apple, your open source efforts kind of stop, or if, he was just moved on because he was developing it for over 10 years. But there's now a bunch of other really fantastic core developers who have come into the project who have been doing a lot of wonderful work. So it's one of those things that's been around long enough and has a big enough community where it kind of has a lot of the libraries you'd want, a lot of the libraries you need. It has a really full featured library selection, but not so big that it needs an NPM or a package registry. So one of the things that's actually really good about it is like all of the libraries that have been built for it are part of the mono repo, so they're shipped with the language along with their docs, and there's a really cool docs viewer which we'll see. I'm kind of enamored with the developer experience, because you not only get like this really great developer tooling, but like it's all, you just kind of download it and you've got everything you need. Like you don't really need to go Google things and find weird packages and go look at like horrible dev2 blogs to work out how something works. Like it's all just in there, which I've had a really great time with. So we are going to write Battlesnake in it, which is actually surprisingly practical. It does have a nice web framework called Furnace. So yeah, let's dive in. Hello folks, I see we've got some more people joining. If you have any questions along the way, do let me know. I can't guarantee that I'll be able to answer them. I don't really know what I'm doing. Let me move me out the way. Okay, so this is Factor. We're in what's called the listener. So this is a application that when you download Factor, you get this application. It is the primary way of interacting with Factor. This does have a command line interface as well, which I will be using at some point today. This is kind of the primary thing. And the listener is where all the magic happens. So this kind of acts like a REPL. So we have the ability to enter Factor code and get responses. We can inspect objects. We can see our stack at any point in time. And we can also access the help menu. So this just briefly off the bat, to a quick intro, how does this work? I said it is a concatenative language, so the syntax is a little bit different to what you might be used to. So, in a normal programming language for addition, you might say 1 + 2. Oh, why is that font so large? Oh, the zoom was working. Okay, I had been messing with the zoom level before I joined the stream, but I didn't think it was doing anything because I was only looking at the scratchpad prompt, but it is. So yeah, in a normal programming language, you would be used to syntax like this for an addition operation, but in a prefix, I think it's prefix. In prefix notation language, it is actually arguments first and then the operation. So addition plus is a function or a word in Factor. So Factor calls functions words. Addition is a word which takes two things off the stack and then adds them together. So if I were to do that, we will get 3. And you'll see it's pushed onto the stack. So the result is pushed onto the stack. And that's actually kind of an interesting thing about this example. Factor is postfix, thank you. I don't know which way around they are. Thank you, Indica. I guess that's... Which way round does... Which is the thing that is post and which is pre? Like when we're... Relative to what? Like how do I know whether something is prefix or postfix? But yeah, so one of the, I just did that addition straight away and the result was pushed onto the stack, but actually that's happening at each step of this computation. So when I do 1, 1's pushed onto the stack, 2 is pushed onto the stack, and then addition is popping them both off and adding them together and putting the result into the stack. So that's kind of the how the language works is most basic. It has a bunch of really neat features. So it is typed, and it's typed. It has words have stack effects, which we'll see when we get into some actual code. And the type signatures, the stack effects, basically describe like, hey, what are you taking off the stack and what's going back onto the stack. And it does do some inference to ensure that your stack signatures match what's happening, which is really nice. What are some other cool things about it? It has its parser works in a way that you wouldn't necessarily anticipate if you come from a language like JavaScript, where, for example, you can't reference words before they've been defined. So the order of definition does actually matter, but there is some what are called parsing words, which I guess are kind of a meta-programming facility. There's some words to help you deal with that, so you can use a word called defer to kind of lay out the name of a word before you've defined it, so you can reference it in another function, and then the definition can follow later. Yeah, that's kind of a summary. So anyway, let us do a thing. So we're going to start a new vocabulary. So libraries, in fact, are called vocabularies. We're going to start a new vocabulary for our Battlesnake, and I'm going to actually use this as an opportunity to show you some of the documentation features, which is really neat. So as I said, the documentation is all built into the listener. We have this help browser. And it's just lovely. It's such a nice experience. I've really been enjoying it. It's kind of, if you've ever used Dash, like the offline documentation browser, it's like that. It covers all the language. And yeah, let's have a look at your first program. And, this is what I followed to get my first program going. And we'll have this open while we do it. So we're going to scaffold a new vocabulary, and we do that by using. So use is the passing word for importing something. So we can use tools.scaffold. And then we can actually put that to work to create our program or our vocabulary. So it will throw that in the work folder. So this is within the factor the factor files you've downloaded. This is within there by default. So I will pop that open in my VS Code. Okay, there we go. Pop that open, and I'll throw that here for now. How are we going to arrange things? Let's half that, and let's have the help thing over here. Sorry, I've only got my power tools set up for half and half, not for creative layouts at the moment. Oh yeah, that's another thing. This for those of you who view regularly, you may observe I'm on a different machine than usual. I am usually on a MacBook. I got a framework a while ago, which is a really nice laptop by a new company that's kind of trying to make maintainable, assemblable, self-repairable laptops. And I got the Windows edition because I think WSL is really neat, and I'm actually perfectly happy running Windows and WSL rather than Linux recently. And I've really only kind of been using it for like odd personal projects and not yet moved my work stuff onto it, and I hadn't yet moved my streaming onto it. So we're using that today. I finally made the leap, but it is the first time I've streamed with it. So if things are shonky, let me know. If anything's looking or sounding weird, well, the sound is going through my other laptop, so it shouldn't be sounding weird, but if anything is weird, do let me know. Let me quickly just check something. Perfect. Cool. Why am I being tagged over there? Cool. So we now have our vocabulary. So, and that is definitely too small. Let's zoom that in a bit. Or not. Great. So we have our vocabulary. So using is where the imports go, where you use other vocabularies, and everything here is being put in the Snake vocabulary. That's what the in passing word means. So that's pretty simple. And in here we can define words, and you define a word with the colon. This is the passing word for defining words. So we can, for example, do something like hello world, and that would just do hello world, and just as a string would print hello world onto the stack. But then I could put print, I think, or I don't know. Let's try it. So now I can use that. There we go. That's already loaded. I think it's already loaded Snake, but okay. It's not. I might need to reload it. So the listener, you have to reload the files that you've got loaded. There we go. Cool. I've done a typo. Oh, I forgot the stack declaration. There we go. We're off to a great start. So I mentioned that we have stack declarations. These are the types essentially. So you're on the left, you have what is taking off the stack. On the right, what's going on the stack. This is doing. Actually, I'm printing, so I don't believe anything's going on the stack. So I think it's actually an empty stack declaration. Let's give that a go. No word print, and this is a thing I really like. So I'm gonna I don't yet know my way around the libraries very well, but factor does. So here it's telling me that I'm using print. It's not found in this vocabulary, but it is found in the IO vocabulary. So it can we can use the IO vocabulary. So that's added the IO vocabulary to my search path here. It's not yet in here. I'm also getting another thing that I've completely forgotten to do, which is add the semicolon to the end. So words also need a semicolon, and I need to add IO to the imports, and then we should be good to go. As well as reloading the library, reloading the actual library itself, you can also just press F2 to reload everything. And there we go. Okay, now I should be able to hello world. Perfect, we're off to a great start. I forgot how to define a hello world function in most of the ways. This is going to be fine. But we're there now. So, just to run through that again, this is the name of the word. Well, so you define with a semicolon, with a colon and a semicolon at the end. This is the name of the word. This is a stack declaration. Inputs on the left, outputs on the right. And then, as we discussed, it is postfix. Thank you, Annika. So we have the print word, and a really cool thing about the listener as well. I'm using a different keyboard layout on here. There we go. The really cool thing about the print, about the listener as well, is we can check the definitions of things using the C word. So we can see how print is defined, and one of the nice properties, I guess, of a concatenative language and of a stack-based language is definitions tend to be really short. It really encourages you to make lots of small functions, lots of small words, and build them up rather than like big ones. And so when it makes it very easy to just quickly print out the definition of something to see if it, works how you'd expect. Which is a property that Haskell has as well, and is why I was like really fond of Haskell. But yeah, Factor does it too. So it's quite useful to just quickly print out a definition. And the other nice thing as well is because the docs are all built in, this is the doc viewer we've got up here, I can like click any of this stuff. So I can click print, and it will open the definition in the docs browser straight away. We're just there. So it opens the docs for it. So I've got, these docs are... The docs are like an interesting mix of generated and not. I haven't actually looked at how you write docs yet. But you can already see, for example, that there's a documentation for our vocabulary that we've got right here. And it's picked up that there's a word in it. It's picked up the stack effect. So we already have it's already starting to generate like docs for us. But then when I've looked at the examples for other files, they have a docs file in there that appears to be using, I guess, some factor syntax for documentation that I haven't actually looked into yet. So it's very neat. We can just kind of click things and see how they work. So I've had great fun just poking around the browser to work out how to do a web thing, and so let's get into that. Let's get into how to do a web thing. So we're going to be using Furnace, and Furnace is a web framework built on top of the basic HTTP stuff. Let me in fact load up the docs. Furnace web framework. So this is something that happens. So the docs aren't available till they're loaded. So we'll load up Furnace. So we get the docs. And yeah, it does work. I don't know if it works differently, if the terminology is different. It doesn't. It works a little bit differently to like your Expresses, your Flasks, your Sinatras. It's not like a routing framework, but it's reasonably easy to get a grasp of. So it primarily works with these things called actions, which I said they're a type of responder, but it's based very much around like form validation, which I guess might be betraying its age. It's based on some Java stuff, it said. So you basically have these actions which have properties. So they are a class, and they have properties for attaching, I guess, different pieces of code that get executed according to different HTTP verbs. So like you have one in there that will call a piece of code to when it gets a get, or call a piece of code when there's at the beginning of a post when you want to validate the post, and then at the end of the post. So we're going to be defining actions essentially. So let's give it to my hello world, and we're going to start off actually by defining a tuple, which is a class, is a thing with slots, and this is actually just because we are going to be subclassing it to a dispatcher. This is a bit where I've grabbed this from some documentation and could not explain it to you. But we know, like, a dispatcher is a part of this framework. It is a thing, a concept inside it that I haven't gone that deep in. I've just read how to do my thing, not how it's built. So we're going to mostly ignore it. But we then need to create that dispatcher. So we've got this class. So I'm then going to define a new word for Battlesnake. And one of the things that's also really nice about Factor is it has very strong naming conventions on words, which make it really intuitive to get started when you're just poking around the documentation. So for example, things surrounded by angle brackets are constructors. I think I'm saying that right. I might get mixed up with round brackets. Let's go have a look. Yes, they are constructors. So things surrounded by angle brackets are constructors. But then you can see here, for example, things ending in question mark output a boolean, which is a pattern that some other languages have. We have so accessors and like writers and readers for the properties of a class, and that's with multiple angle brackets on either end, so kind of like pipe-ish syntax, which is really nice. So that's an element of the language that I've really enjoyed, because as long as you know, like, the API for any given thing that you might work with is really clear. Like, if you know the property name, you know it's probably, you know what the accessor is called, you know what the getter is called, which is super great. So we are defining our constructor for our Battlesnake dispatcher, and to do that we need to call new dispatcher, and new dispatcher takes a class. It takes the dispatcher class, which for us is called Battlesnake, so that goes there, and then under here is where we put our responders. So our responders come here, and this is where it does look quite similar to like a routing framework, where like we like a responder basically takes the form of like a responder action, and then your like root, and then just like boilerplate add responder. Those go there. So for Battlesnake, we are going to want to start with our info responder. So we're going to want to do something like, we're going to want an info action that's on root, so on nothing there, and then that will get add responder. So let's define our info action. As I said, we do need to make sure the ordering of definition does matter. So we'll define our info action up here, and then this is an action. It just returns an action. The naming of these don't matter. Like the naming of your static declarations doesn't matter, but like you want to, as with any parameter naming, I guess we want to make sure it's reasonably descriptive. And in here, again, there's a little bit of boilerplate. This is a page action, which is a constructor for a page action. Page actions, there's multiple types of actions. There's page actions and there's actions. The main difference for a page action is it makes use of a templating language that Furnace has called Chloe. We are not actually going to be making any Chloe templates, but the other kind of thing that page action does that the raw action doesn't is like deals with building the response. So if you do a raw action, you have to add your response header and sorry, not your response header. You have to add the HTTP status code and build the response, all that kind of stuff. Page action just does that. So although we're not using Chloe templates, it is a little bit easier. And when we have this page action, what we're doing in an action. So as I said, the actions all have these slots on them that there we go. So look how nice this like just this docs process. Oh, it's so nice. Okay, so actions all have these slots on them that get called at different points of your application lifecycle, or different points of the request lifecycle. So, for example, display. A quotation called after the init quotation in a GET request. So init gets called at the start of a GET request, and quote display then gets called after that. So display gets triggered. The contents of display get triggered in response to a GET request. What is a quotation? A quotation is essentially an anonymous function. So if I were to do 1, 2 plus, that's a piece of factor code. It would take the 1, it would take the 2, it would add them together, it would give us 3. I could throw that into square brackets, and that's not an array, that is a quotation. So it's essentially an anonymous function that's, instead of executing, that will just get plopped right onto the stack. And so other functions can accept, other words can accept that as input and run it. I can call it with call, for example, and that will call it. But that's actually also how if works in Factor. So if is a word. Let's do a cheeky C. Oh, sorry, forgot a slash there. Forgot a space rather. So if is a word which takes a Boolean expression, and then it takes a quotation, like an anonymous function for the true case, an anonymous function for the false case, and then it will run the appropriate ones. So, for example, if I were to do T, and then I were to do 1, 2 plus, or 3, 4 plus, and then give that to if. This is the anonymous function that will run if it's true. This is the anonymous function that will run if it's false. And then the Boolean expression is up front. In Factor, T is true, F is false. So that will run 1, 2 plus. So yeah, a quotation is just a block of code. So when we're talking about these slots in the action, when it says display a quotation called after the init quotation to GET request, this quotation must return HTTP response. Basically, like if we want a piece of code, the piece of code that we want to return a response to our GET request gets put into the display slot. So I need to throw a quotation here, and I need to write that to display. So again, we have these really nice naming conventions. This is an action. Page action is an action, and so it has a slot, a property called display, and these angle brackets at the front is to set display, to write display. So in here is where we actually define what we are going to be returning in that response. This is where the response goes. We need to return JSON to the Battlesnake. For folks who are not familiar, let's throw up the docs. Battlesnake. So the Battlesnake game is going to send us a GET request. So we are defining the info step. Ooh, we're on the new docs. I have not used them yet. Okay, so Battlesnake has 4 endpoints it will call in your app. Root, which is where Battlesnake goes to get the metadata of your snake. Start and end, which don't usually get used. They get called at the beginning and the end of the game. And move is the main one. That's where it sends all of the game state in a post blob. So we're implementing get right now. That's why we're writing to display, because display is the slot on the action class that deals with get. And so we need to return this JSON blob that defines our snake. So to return JSON, we are going to want to build some JSON content inside our quotation. And we can do that with the JSON content command, or word rather. This is part of JSON, part of Furnace. Again, this Factor has given me a philosophical crisis, because I'm like, I love this developer experience. This whole all the libraries you need are there. It's got pretty much everything you need. It's got the right density of stuff. It's all the good quality. but it's small enough to be like rockable. It's small enough for like one person to read for the docs, and it's small enough to be all bundled in the one installation. So on the one hand, I'm like, I love this. I want more people to experience this, but I also feel like this is only possible because it's not a super popular language. I don't know. It's a good thing as it is currently, and I enjoy it a lot. So what Factor does is it takes an object, it takes a JSON, this is a JSON object, and it builds a HTTP response with it. So we want one of them there, and then we need to actually give it the JSON. So this is where I'm actually going to do a new word to build our JSON, because I did find that building JSON, it's not, you have to do string escaping, which I'm just like is a bit of an egg. So we will define our JSON object. So boom, that's our JSON object, and we need, this is a string, we need to convert it into JSON. So we do that with JSON angle brackets doodly, which is the writer. It is the reader, because it's reading a string and outputting JSON. Why is that the reader and not the writer? I guess it's an arbitrary direction. Yeah, so JSON angle brackets is the JSON reader that reads in a string and outputs a JSON object. Which, let's see that working. So let's do use JSON, JSON.reader, and we'll define, for example, we'll do, let's have name, factor. That is correct. Great. And then I'll pop that off the stack into the JSON reader, and then you see we get this object back. So H and a squiggly bracket in factor means hash table. So this is a hash table. And if I open up the object inspector for, oh no, I cannot. There we go. If I open up the object inspector for this, how do I get, no, that's the hash table. Give me the object. Nope. I don't know. Inspector. There we go. So if I open up the object inspector, you can see this is a hash table with a key, name, and a value factor. Again, how rad is the listener? I love this. This inspector is so cool. It's very nice. And then this is, this value itself is an object, so we can inspect that, and we can see that it's a string with factor with characters in it, which is just beautiful. So you saw I do have to escape all of the stuff, so I'm going to put this in here to save me some time. Let's copy that. Great, so can I ever remember what needs to be in this? No, I cannot. Let's open up the docs, and we'll throw those on the left. Great. So API version. Perfect. Author, color, head, tail, version. Okay. Version, tail. Any Battlesnake players in the chat? What head and tail should I use today? Give me a head and tail. This is always one. Author is Nash. Color, we'll throw red in there just to make sure it works. Head, default, tail, default, version 0.01. Red. So that is a JSON object for our page action to use. Lanternfish. Andrew, is that will I even own Lanternfish? Let me have a look. Oh, I'm not logged in. Let's see if I have Lanternfish. Customizations. That's taking a while to load. Maybe. Lantern. I do own Lanternfish. I do. I do own lanternfish. There we go. We'll be lanternfish. Great. Okay. So I have my JSON object, and I have a thing that's going to consume JSON. So this is as simple as giving it snake info. Am I meant to have syntax highlighting here? I think that's... Is there no syntax highlighting inside a thing? I think that's fine. Okay, so that's our info action. So when we get a GET request, this dispatcher, so the dispatcher takes the action, adds it to, and a route. Sorry, hang on. Let's try again. Add responder is going to take this action and this route and create a responder on it. New dispatcher. I don't entirely know how this works. Let's have a look at new dispatcher. So that returns a dispatcher, and I guess then add responder. Okay, add responder takes a dispatcher and returns a responder. So you chain add responders together because each one outputs a dispatcher, which you then feed into the next one. That makes sense. Great, perfect. We are not yet done on this because what we haven't done, this builds the dispatcher, but we're not actually running the HTTP server yet. So we do need to do that. We do need to have our HTTP server. And this is where you call down to the HTTP. I don't know what it is. Server. So we're going to call our we're going to add our dispatcher, and then again, this is mostly just boilerplate. This stuff here, we do main responder, set global. Actually, I don't even know what set global does. I didn't have a look at that. And then we're going to do 8081 HTTP. And actually, I don't know why I'm quoting that. That doesn't need to be quoted. Don't think that needs to be quoted. So HTTPD starts HTTP server on specified port number, so it takes in a port. And then we've got main responder and set global. So Marchin, hey, Nicostas. So main responder, what does main responder do? The responder which will handle HTTP requests, that makes sense. And then set global, I'm assuming is going to be setting a variable. Oh, main responder is the variable. Okay, I understand. So I'm actually going to put those on the same line. So Battlesnake is our Battlesnake is our dispatcher. Main responder is our variable. We're then setting that at the global level. So Factor does have variables, by the way. Hey, Kushtos. It's a concatenative stack-based language. It's called Factor. It is really delightful because the developer experience, Kushtos. So we have this thing called the listener, which is like a REPL. So, does REPL-y things as you would expect. We get the... we can see the stack, we can manipulate the stack, I can put things on the stack, I can swap them, I can do all that kind of stuff. But then all the docs are just like here. So the docs are all... So all the libraries that exist for Factor are shipped in the mono repo. And they all, the docs kind of generate and they all exist. So like I can click on clear. Sorry, I don't want to put it there. Let's put it on the stack. So like I can click on a word, a function, and it'll open up in the docs. It's just there. And yeah, we can inspect objects. So like I can make a hash table. I can't bother to make one manually. There we go. So like this is a hash table, and I can inspect this object, and there's this cute little inspector, which that's the syntax I'm apparently inspecting. There we go. There's this cute inspector. So this is a hash table. I can see the key and the value. It's really lovely. So we're building a Battlesnake in it. Okay, so What was I doing? Yes, so there is variables, and now I actually understand what this is doing. So set global sets a variable. It takes the value and the variable name, and then sets it on the global content or the global scope. So I'm guessing main responder is a variable that's consumed by the HTTP server. Yes, they quote Smalltalk as an inspiration for that. Yeah, it's like Smalltalkified fourth. And then that responder will be set to handle HTTP requests, and then we'll be running the HTTP server on port 8081. So I'm going to reload this, and it's going to give me all the errors because I haven't added any of these things to the imports. There we go. So we'll do this as we go along. No word dispatcher. Let's add the HTTP. I'm just going to add. Can I add just the whole server library? No. We will add dispatchers. Okay, load it again. Perfect. Now I need JSON.reader. Load it again. There's probably a way to do an integration where the listener adds it into the source file itself, but I'm going to do it. I don't know how to do that. If you do, let me know. Accessors. I'll put this at the beginning of the list. HTTP server. Namespaces. Cool. Now we're just into code errors. I forgot to close this word. Done. Okay, so do I get snake info? I do get snake info. If I do an info action, do I get an action on the stack? Auto use helps a lot. What is auto use? Wait, what? So wait, what is that? How do I use that? Okay. Oh, perfect. Absolutely perfect. So it's if set to true, so true auto use set. That's how I set, and there's a question mark. That's how I set that, I think. Oh. Okay. So now if I you just type autos in the listener. Oh, okay. Now what happens? So now if I import, so now if I were to use something that I haven't imported, I don't know, that's is there a shuffle word that's not? Yeah, I don't have kernel imported, do I? Okay, we use a shuffle word. Oh, name. Neat. And I'm guessing that F3 is describing... Oh, my stat declaration is wrong. Oh, of course, over adds no more. That's errors, by the way. Okay, cool. And then I just copy this. Neat, okay. Thank you, Anika. Or Annika, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly. Do I still need to... Do I need to have this... Perfect. That's great, thank you. Do I need to have this variable set inside the source code, or do I just need to put auto use in the listener? No, perfect. Okay, cool. Thank you. Really appreciate that. I'm glad someone who knows anything about what this is here. Let's clear out my garbage stack. Okay. Annika, I'm going to do something that I don't know is the correct way to do this, and I never know how to deal with it. Running a HTTP server such that I can terminate... Wait, I have a keyboard with pause on it now. Okay, I'm going to do something. I might have to restart my whole listener. If I do run Battlesnake... Oh, I need to... One sec. Use threads. Run Battlesnake in threads. So this is how I've been starting my server. One thing I'm missing, I need to set T development set, I believe is the code for that. This sets the development mode in the HTTP server, so it auto refreshes the code. So I've been running my HTTP server like this. This has not always been, I think, what I want. So I've tried several times to like foreground or to kill that thread using the words I could find for manipulating threads, and that's never worked. But the auto refresh seems to not auto refresh changes to the set dispatches. So if I, for example, in the info action, if I change the contents of snake info, the auto refresh does definitely work. If I change anything in Battlesnake, or I change anything like outside this quotation, auto refresh doesn't seem to work. So sometimes I do have to kill the whole server again, which I've just been doing by restarting the listener. So this is where I would usually jump over to the terminal listener, and I'll run this over there instead, so that I don't have to kill the whole listener. But I don't know if I'm doing that. I don't know if this is the way that people. I'm not sure how people who actually write factor web applications deal with like development. So I don't know if that's correct, but that's what I've been doing. And then I want factor is factor com to the com, and then there's a command to run it as to run the listener factor.com. Oh, I can't find the file specified. That's not good. There we go. Factor.com run listener. Great. So yeah, just to show what I did there. So I've got the factor listener running in a terminal window over on the side, so that I can run this run the server over there. So if I need to kill it, that's not a big deal. And great. Okay, well that's loading. Let's get our ngrok going. So that... Oh. There we go, we've got ngrok running. Let's get the snake set up. How are we doing on time? Okay. There's our ngrok. That's obviously not going to have anything on it right now. I'm going to build from scratch, and we'll call this Battlesnake. This is a disaster. Let's open this up. You'll go on there. I am in, let's use DigitalOcean Frankfurt. Boop. There we go. That info request is going to get bad gateway because we're not running it yet. That's now ready to run. So in my terminal, I'm going to pop in run Battlesnake in Fred. What have I done? I'm definitely defining that word. Ooh. Well, now that ran. Oh, I didn't put a space. Yeah, thanks, Danica. And this is probably not going to work because of the because I didn't infrared it. That's worrying. Spin up again. Okay. Oh, what have I done? Okay. Let's get that out of the way. Do end that word. Okay. Run Battlesnake in Fred. Okay. Oh. I'm running that from WSL. Is what's happening there. That's not where I want to run that. I want to do it from in here. Factor.com. Sorry, I'm going to start up that terminal again. Not a listener. To that. We've just gone full disaster mode now. There we go. Is that one killed? So factor.com run equals listener. Perfect. Using snake threads. Let that load. Yeah, so folks who don't know what's happened, I'm on Windows. That was a WSL terminal. I was then trying to access a server from localhost. WSL2, the WSL server has a different, WSL container has a different network interface, so it's not accessible on localhost. And equally, things you're running on Windows aren't accessible on localhost from inside the WSL. You have to use the host name. And I do that literally every day, and still do it. Okay. Now that, I don't know what's wrong with. Let's just run it in the listener. Oh, oops. There we go. Works in the listener. Don't know why it wasn't working in my terminal. That's fine. I'm not going to think too hard about it. So we are now getting a JSON response. Let's give our snake a refresh. Reload factor snake. There we go. Red lanternfish. We have a snake. Perfect. So now we need to handle the move. So I'm going to call that move action. Why am I haven't done the colon. Move action. This is again going to return an action. And just as before, we're going to have a quote, but we're not going to display this time. We are going to submit. It's called submit because I said Furnace is all built around form validation, so it assumes that well, I mean, like, this is based on the premise of submitting a form. So Furnace, let's go to Furnace actions, Furnace action configuration, so submit. So this is called after the validate quotation. So validate is called at the start of a post, but then this is the part, this is what's called to return the HTTP response. So yeah, this is the main thing that's called in response to a post. So we are going to want to return a move. So as before, I'm going to define a sample move. So I don't have to deal with it inside the quote. And this is relatively straightforward. We'll just go left. Yes, we'll just go left and then give that into the JSON reader, and we'll do sample move to JSON content, right? Definitely, there's anything else I need to give submit? No. Okay. What have I done? Stack effect declaration is wrong. On which one? Help if it close that. Why does that generate an error, actually? Are these... Is this more than convention? I thought the name was just convention, but did that change type checking? Because I changed that. Or was that error still there? If I messed something up. I haven't called it a page action. That's what I messed up. So no, the name didn't change the type declaration. There we go. That's what I did wrong. I forgot to make a page action for submit. Okay, so this will return left. Hopefully that has auto refreshed. I believe the auto refresh functionality refreshes whenever it gets a request. So let's actually just verify that by changing our snake's color. Let's change to blue. Oh, I probably need to reload in the listener, right? There we go, blue. Perfect. Let's give that a refresh. That should go blue. Snake's blue. Let's create a game. Wait. Custom game. Factor snake. Run. There's a problem here, chat. What did I do wrong? I forgot to add that new responder into this list. So I only have the info one. So move action, that's going to be on move add responder. Oops. Right, get that refresh. And now this is where I'm not actually confident that the auto refresh is going to work, because I've had trouble with the auto refresh and messing with the responder before. So this will go for the ceiling, so I didn't respond to anything. Yes, we're getting 404s not found on that still. Which is a little bit of a pain, because I do now need to, as far as I know, kill the whole listener. It's really weird. Like, it should auto refresh. Like, if I change this back to FF0000, and then refresh that. Boop. Wrong one. Yeah, it does go red, but it doesn't seem to change the responders / dispatchers level. I guess that when I was doing some logging when I was messing around with this, and it seems like the dispatches get set before, obviously like before the HTTP server starts, and because it's set as a global variable outside the HTTP server, it's not part of the HTTP server refresh, is what I figure is happening. So because I don't know better, I'm just going to kill the listener. I think if I restart the listener, that won't be enough. No, that thread is still running. And actually do I still have threads? If I do threads, there you go. This is also super cool. So I can do threads to see all the threads, and then use the inspector to see the threads. So you can actually see the thread there. I just don't know how to kill it, because I can, like, if I do 105.6, if I do that, swap those over, and then there's like a bunch of things for manipulating threads, so I can interrupt the current thread. Like, I don't know how to bring that thread, I don't know how to make that thread the current thread. I guess I can resume it. So if I do at, that brings that thread. If I then do resume, but that obviously doesn't do anything. So that's now the current thread. So if I now type suspend, I mean, I want to close this anyway. So yeah, and then I don't know how to deal with the thread, how to get that thread without shutting down the whole listener. So we'll just shut down the whole listener. That's fine. If anyone watching happens to know a way for me to deal with that better, that'd be great. I will try actually. I will try it. So there was approach. Another way of running the server was to use wait for server, and I couldn't use this when I was doing it on my laptop because I didn't have a keyboard with break at the time, but now I do. So I could try that. Run Battlesnake. I think it's just wait for server. Oh, that's sick. Okay. So if I just type save. So now you're saying if I start the listener again, it would just be there? Oh, I see what you mean. So I still have to use it, but it no longer does all of the import. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong abort. I need to do using. Right, I see what you mean. So it's loaded. I still need to put the use in, but it doesn't have to do all that loading. That's awesome. Thank you. So what I'm taking from that, Annika, is that there isn't a better way for me to restart that server, but I can make it better to restart the listener when I do it. Is that the correct thing I should take from that response? Anyway, run Battlesnake in thread. We should be back up again. Where's my browser gone? Hello? There it is. Oh, we're right on the edge. Cool. We go left. We do go left. Certifiably left, everyone. Look at that. Certifiably left. Annika says, I don't know a better way myself. That's totally fine. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Save tip is hot and is great. I'm very happy with that. That makes it a lot easier. Okay. I'm going to take you on a little journey I had. Because we're going to want to start... So, okay. Web server's up. Battlesnake running. we can start to do stuff. Getting the post body out of that post request took me a minute to figure out. Took me a bit to figure out. So I don't entirely know what the application life cycle. Well, I mean, I guess I do now. So like this action is getting attached to a responder such that every time, and then the action has a piece of code on it that's responding to every get and every post request. So every get and every post request, this piece of code is run. Stack-based language, you'll notice this has no inputs, right? So like, where is the data from the request? Where's the data from the post body? It's not in these inputs. I can't get it and give it to this quotation. Like, how do I get at it? It seems, after poking about, that it is set on a... there we go, HTTP request variables. When a request happens, the HTTP server sets a bunch of variables. So one of those is the request. So there's just this variable that contains the request. It doesn't get passed into... again, this is my Node.js Express brain working. I'm used to like my root handlers being passed the request object, right? That's not where it goes. It goes into this variable that's been set called request. And then on request, we have these slots, and one of them contains the post data. So we're going to want to get that in this quotation and start to use that to make our post moves. So this is a variable, so I get it. I get the contents of the variable, and then that gets us this request object, and then I get out the slots with, so this is called post data. So again, that lovely naming convention, I will read it with the angle brackets, and then that in itself is a object which has data, so I do it again, and then that's my post data. So at this point, I could put that into like a word called handle move, which takes the post data and outputs JSON. So I can remove snake info and do that. But before I do that, I want to log it. And logging was also something that took me a minute. I don't know how to do like... I haven't figured out this week yet, like, if I can do I/O with the listener. Like, I don't know if I can print something here. I mean, I guess I was looking at print. Like, how did print actually? So so yeah, I guess I can. So I could output stream print, output stream. So you get the output stream and you give that to the stream print. So yeah, I guess I could, but then the server's running in a thread. I don't know how to make, I haven't figured out how to do fancy things with the I/O yet. But I did figure out how to log. So we have, so actually I should be able to bring up the HTTP server logs for this one. Yeah, so I can't URL. Yeah, so the HTTP server like is constantly making a log. This is logging that's set inside the HTTP server itself. So I did dive into how the logging works, and I think we'll log the requests over to there. So with logging, we have... there's a logging framework, and again, oh God, I love this developer experience. It's so nice. So there's a logging framework, and the basic way this works is you have to wrap everything. You have to wrap the code that you want to log with this logging calls. So you quote all the code that you want to generate logs, and then you pass that to with logging, and that makes, I don't know really what it does. I saw mentioned somewhere that it's making oh, it says right there. It makes a dynamic scope where that logging happens, and then once you've done that, all the code inside it can log, can call through to various logging. It gets slightly complicated with the HTTP server. If people in the Factor Discord are watching, it's suddenly going to become, and you haven't put 2 and 2 together, it's suddenly going to become really clear who I am in the Discord at this point, because I've been asking about this yesterday. It gets really complicated with the HTTP server, because the HTTP server, as said, is doing its own logging. So it is defining its own with logging dynamic scope, which means if I were to, for example, wrap this in a log, so like we'll do coding badly. Let me put auto use back in here. So if I were to do coding badly, and wrap that in a with logging, this, and then like then I started logging something. So there's a couple of ways you can make stuff log. So for example, one of them is by adding a log. Like there's this command called add logging. So I can add logging to sample move. I'll do it on the notice level, and we'll do add output logging. So add output logging does what it says on the tin. It logs the output. By the way, you've probably seen me using these backslashes a bunch, like I'm using them in the listener. That just returns the next word. So if you have a word that consumes a word, you can use the backslash to feed that word to it. So this adds logging to sample move. So every time sample move is called, it will log. But where sample move is called is inside this action. So the scope, the logging scope it's getting called in is not this logging scope I've set here. So coding badly is the name of the log file that I've set. My logging service is coding badly. Sample move won't log in that log file. It will log in the HTTP server log file. And I have not found a good way of dealing with this, except to wrap every single action in its own logging context. So actually inside this quotation, I have to do with logging again. So to get the correct log from that sample move, I would have to do it in here. And I don't think there's anything wrong with this. I just hate it. And I wish it wasn't. But I couldn't find I tried to do like, so the logging is working on a log service variable, and so I tried like other ways. Like I tried setting the log service variable inside here instead, and that didn't seem to do it. Like that didn't seem to be sufficient. So instead I've just been doing this. So yeah, let's give that a refresh. That'll give me a new. There we go. So I just grabbed this and I put that in the using. Lovely. So that's now added the logging. Did I already run the web server in this one? Yes, I did. So I do need to restart the listener anyway. Once we've stopped messing with the roots themselves, we have now stopped messing with the roots themselves, I won't need to restart the listener again. So now if I go to my snake and I do that, and I create a rematch, we should get log files generated. So that should be going left. Yeah, good. Did I... Have I just left a broken piece of code in there? Did I delete? Why is this running? Is this running? Why is this working? Did I not save this file? That shouldn't... Oh. Oh, I actually need to call reload. I can't just do F2. I keep forgetting what everything's called. Snake threads. Snake reload. Thank you, Annika. Oh my god, I can never stop doing that. Okay. Query match. You can see that's working. Okay, do we get a log file? We do! Great, so yeah, you'll now see I've got the coding badly, logs, and there we go. I do get my sample move in there. So that's great, but I want the post body from each request. So this is where we can log that, and the way to log that I saw there's a passing word for this as well, but I wasn't totally sure I understood how it worked. So there's a word called log message, and this takes a word. So like I guess it's the word that you assign it the word that the log is coming from, I guess, though I don't think it matters. And then the log level, the string, the word, and the log level. So the post data here, this gets the post data. So that's the message that we're sending, and then this is coming from the move action, and we put that on notice. And so that should give us the whole post body. I didn't need to refresh that one on a live reload server now. So using snake threads, snake reload. Oh, yep. I've done that stupid typo again. Load resource again. What have I got now? No word move. Oh, I'm doing this in the wrong one. That does not belong in the info action. This belongs in the move action. Hey, there we go. There's an example of the the way the parser works actually just saved me from adding the wrong bit of code to the wrong function. There we go. Infrared. Okay. So now we create that rematch. Let's close that log file. We're still going left. That's always a good sign. Hey, there we go. And we've got our post body. So, yeah. So now with this is the entire game state that's being logged. So now I can, I know I'm getting the post body, and I can write a handler to deal with it. And that would be as simple as, yeah, as I said earlier, as in throwing like move handler in here. I would still want to, how do I order that actually? So I'm going to want to, this is where the stack stuff is really fun. So this data is getting pushed onto the stack, and then it's getting consumed by log message. And log message isn't returning anything. There's no output from log message, right? No, there's no output from log message. So after that, I'm kind of in like a clean stack for sample move. So I think I would want to dupe here So what dupe does is duplicate the thing on top of the stack. So if I throw a 1 on the stack and then dupe, we get 1, 1. So I dupe, so my post data will be on the stack twice. The first one gets consumed by the log message, and then one is left on the stack for me to then hand to a move handler. I believe that is how I would do that. But we are more or less at time today for this particular episode. Thank you for joining me on this detour down into playing with Factor today on Coding Badly. We don't yet know if Kevin is back next week. We will probably continue the Factor Snake next week. If Kevin is back next week, we're probably not going to be continuing the project we're working on before straight away. So we'll be continuing this next week. So next week, not next week. Next time we're live, which is next time Coding Badly is live, which will be the 20th of October. Next time Coding Badly is live on 20th October, we'll probably be continuing this. So next time we're starting on that move handler, and we'll actually make the snake do something useful. And this is all the HTTP boilerplate out the way. So after that, it's just pure snake writing. But yeah, in summary, I am really, really enjoying Factor. I think I might end up doing a lot of Factor. They have a Discord server. Everyone's very nice in there, despite me asking many silly questions. There's not, it's been around a while, and people use it, people like it, people contribute to it, but there's not the most resources out there online. There's like enough to get you going. There's some really good starter tutorials, but most of your, if you pick it up and have a go, most of your journey will be through like trawling through the docs. The other nice thing about it as well actually is it does come with like a heap of examples. So like in the distribution you download, there's a folder called Extra, which is just full of applications that people have written with Factor. Like there's like Tetris. Oh, it comes with a UI framework. There's a UI framework built in, which is really cool. A heap of examples, including like, on the web app side, and this is where I've been looking at a lot to figure out what I'm doing. Like it includes like the entire source code to like, so for example, concatenative.org. This is a wiki for concatenative languages. It includes the source code for this, for like this wiki. It's got the source code for the Factor website, like all kinds of stuff. So all like really useful examples in there for learning how, like when I was figuring out how to do stuff, I was just sitting there with a terminal open with grep, just looking for like, I think this is the function. I found like the word I think I need in the docs. Let me go and have a look at an example. Let me go see if an example is using it so I can see how it's used. So like for example, with the logging stuff, like the logging documentation, and this is quite a common pattern with a lot of the docs to a certain extent. So like the logging framework documentation, kind of like it tells you, it gives you the components of the logging and how it works, but it doesn't tell you how to stitch them together. So I was like taking stuff from here and then grepping the entire examples folder to find things that were using it. So yes, it's just very nice. I've enjoyed my time with it immensely. So anyway, thank you for hanging out today. Thank you, Annika, for being here and for answering my questions and for giving me some shortcuts to getting my listener reloaded quicker, and for not having to type in all of the imports manually. Coding Badly, we're back on the 20th. Next week, we have... next week it is Battlesnake Codes, so it is Rob. So Rob will be back next week, Battlesnake Codes, and most importantly, Snake Pit Live does start again for the Fall League very, very soon. We have the first Snake Pit Live on, I want to say Saturday the 15th is the first Snake Pit Live. if you are not already registered, let's go take a look at the Fall League. So the Fall League is now up. The games are running, but the points are being scored. But it's still pretty early days. You could still slide a snake in there. New map, Island Bridges. So this is a map with 4 discrete sections with little gaps through to them. It's wrapped as ever, but as we kind of spoke about last year with last season, during the Summer League, the wrapped game mode is, we think, most interesting when the sides are kind of enclosed, and so this is continuing in with that theory. Got little avenues through, and the hazard is deadly. And as ever, there is a big fat prize pool, beautiful trophy, swag, and the finals are actually taking place at Twilio Signal. The Platinum quarterfinals and the Platinum finals will all be taking place. Are they both taking place at Twilio Signal? Yeah, they are. So they'll be taking place at Twilio Signal Conference. That is free to sign up for and register. Also, as you can see there, it will be on the Twilio Twitch. It'll be on Signal TV, so you'll be able to watch the Battlesnake tournament without signing up for anything. You just roll up to Twitch. But if you want to watch it with inside the Signal platform whilst the rest of the Twilio conference is going on, you can do that as well. Isn't that fun? So yeah. Sign up, have a go. If you're new to Battlesnake and the Fall League looks a bit intimidating, of course, you have plenty of other ways to play. All right, thanks so much, everyone. I will see you on the 20th of October. Thank you for joining in and watching me use a language that I don't know. And I hope to see you all soon. Bye.